you doing here?
I don't know.
Dude, heck yeah! Hey Arnold is my personal favorite cartoon, not just from that era of Nickelodeon, but of all time. The show means so much to me and helped shape me growing up. Now, that's a lot to say for any piece of programming, but the way that this show was able to capture a slice of life that was more unique than any other cartoon telling these stories was so impactful. It didn't need to have characters be animals or monsters, and not that there's anything bad about those decisions, it's just that this show was built by its world and its well-written characters, with each of the individual characters of the show getting their personal stories explored throughout the show's run. But beyond that, it was the world they built, the location in which these stories take place, and the atmosphere captured beautifully with jazzy undertones that attach you to this environment. I want to make a larger video about Hey Arnold, deep diving into all of this at some point, but for today, continuing our darkest series here on the channel, we're going to look at one of the earlier episodes in the show that definitely creeped me out every time it came on. So if you want more videos like this that jump into the dark, strange, and weird, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 50,000 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you so much for the unbelievable support that you all have shown me. It truly means a lot, and I'm forever grateful. But before I gush on more about how amazing you are, let's get right into the episode. Season 1, Episode 8, Haunted Train. The episode starts on a summer afternoon with the kids from the block out of school and Arnold and Gerald sitting on Arnold's apartment stoop, bored. When Grandpa Phil approaches bringing over an ice cream for each of them, Arnold and Gerald inform him that they've played every board game in the house, from checkers to Go Fish to even a crossword puzzle. Hey, honestly, don't sleep on crossword puzzles. They're actually kind of fun. Also, I like Sudoku. That's not important, I just wanted to say that. Getting some inspiration from a passing train, Grandpa Phil, in an effort to cheer up the boys, asks if he's ever told them about how he used to work for the railroad and first heard about the legend of the haunted train. Arnold and Gerald, intrigued, turn to listen as Grandpa Phil begins to tell his tale. The story goes like this. 40 years ago, old engine 25 was heading to the station when the engineer went mad and drove the train off the tracks. No one ever saw the engineer or his train again, leaving the people that knew of his disappearance convinced that the train was driven to the fiery pits of the underworld itself. More kids from the street gather in to listen as Grandpa Phil warns that every year on the anniversary of its disappearance, the haunted train appears, pulling into the old station to pick up unsuspecting passengers who are drawn aboard, hypnotized by a blinding white light. From there, the kidnapped passengers are overwhelmed by the smell of rotten eggs, or as Grandpa Phil claims, the smell of fire and brimstone, and horrible, inhuman music begins to play before the train enters the zone of darkness. In the zone of darkness, the passengers can feel the heat from the flames outside as the train rolls to a stop. As the doors swing open, they are greeted by the red-hot demon himself. And no, we aren't talking about the candy, but yes, I would love some. The kids begin to whisper amongst themselves as Grandpa Phil gets up, offering one last warning before he goes, that tonight is the 40th anniversary of the haunted train's disappearance, and that he's not sure what would happen if someone were to sneak into the old train station to await its return. He then proceeds to give hyper-specific details about the location of the old train station, which makes you think if he actually does want unsupervised children to break in and wait for a creepy hell-bound ghost train. Regardless, Grandpa Phil heads inside, satisfied with having been an effective distraction for Arnold. The other kids disperse and Arnold and Gerald begin to discuss the legitimacy of the tale they just heard. Helga, who's been looking on unimpressed during the course of the story, jumps in saying she wants specific scientific proof before believing anything so crazy. Arnold argues that some things you just have to believe in using faith, and accuses Helga of just being more scared than she's letting on. And this, of course, results in the two of them daring each other to meet up at the old train station, an hour after the streetlights come on, to prove or disprove this myth, and their own bravery, with Gerald being pulled unwillingly into the scheme. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. Arnold was a bad friend to have. He'd always drag other people into his shenanigans no matter the reason or risk. Luckily, he has a kind heart and likes to free captive sea turtles, or else Arnold could have grown up to be, I don't know, an arsonist or something. Later that night on 53rd Street, the figures of Arnold, Gerald, and Helga are seen sneaking through the abandoned train yard to the dilapidated station on the other side. Pushing through cobwebs, the three kids climb around the boarded up door and find themselves inside. They then disturb a colony of bats that Arnold tries to fight off by using an old piece of wood as a bat. Okay, that's pretty clever. After the altercation, the three kids sit down and wait for the train. The clock strikes 12. Still inside the old train station, Arnold is killing it on the harmonica as Gerald accompanies him singing a blues song about their plight of waiting for the haunted train. Just as Helga is fed up with standing around for something she doesn't believe exists, a train whistle cuts through the night. The station begins to shake, the tracks begin to rattle, and a steely black train rolls into the station. Dark smoke billowing out of its chimney and the number 25 painted on its front. The three kids instantly recognize it for the train in Grandpa Phil's story. The doors open up to a blinding white light, and just as Grandpa Phil described, they are drawn inside. As they enter the rundown interior of the train, the kids come back to their senses, but before they can leave, the door slams shut and the train begins to move. Helga catches the smell of rotten eggs and cue the fart jokes.
See who smelled it, dealt it.
And inhuman music begins to blare through the air, causing the kids to cover their ears. Helga, fully believing in Grandpa Phil's story now, begins to lose it, tugging on the sealed door and cursing her own inquisitive nature. The lights begin to flicker before eventually going out completely, signifying that they have entered, as Arnold declares it,
Zone of darkness.
the final stop before they reach the underworld. In the low light of the train, a figure is seen sneaking up behind Helga as she laments her situation. Just as Helga screams, noticing the figure, the lights turn back on, revealing Brainy, who has no idea how he's gotten on the train with them. In disgust, Gerald pulls open the door, because apparently they couldn't open it earlier when they were trying to escape, and Helga tosses Brainy off the train into a muddy ditch. Like, yeah, dude's a weird creep, but dang, Helga really did him. Wait for it. Dirty. Helga closes the door and the three kids look outside, seeing the flames of the underworld. As the train begins to roll to a stop, Arnold has the idea and quickly gets the others to help him grab the fire hose hanging on the wall. He then blasts the demonic figure that opens the door, trying to put him out. As soon as the figure falls, the kids realize that the demon lord they were fighting was actually a normal, now angry, worker, a relief worker at that. The real, very living train engineer then shows up explaining that the underworld they thought they saw through the window was just the inside of a steel mill, and that the fire and brimstone they smelled was just the smell of sulfur. As for the inhuman music that Helga, Arnold, and Gerald had heard, turns out that the engineer is just a polka music enthusiast. He even has his own accordion. And that the lights in the train always flicker and go out. With the adventure over, Grandpa Phil comes to pick Arnold, Gerald, and Helga up. As they drive home, Grandpa Phil compliments Arnold on his fire hose plan, and Arnold lets on that he knows Grandpa Phil was just messing with them since they were bored. Arnold concludes that there is no haunted train, to which Grandpa Phil cryptically replies, well, now, I didn't say that. As Grandpa Phil's car rounds the bend heading back towards the city, the camera pans over to Brainy sitting on the fence post of the side of some railroad tracks as Engine 25 rolls by, the mutilated ghost engineer sitting on the front with the accordion singing the song of the haunted train. Overall, this episode on surface level isn't too bad. Where I feel it deserves the title of dark is the overall themes and the overall ending of seeing the ghost engineer with a deep voice singing his story, leading into the credits. And for some reason, this episode was always airing later at night, and even when the reruns happened on the Splat or Nick Rewind, it was still constantly playing later at night, giving me that uneasy feeling right before I went to sleep. Again, this Darkest series isn't about the scariest episodes out there. It's about darker themes within episodes and/or how parts of these effectively told more askew stories and how they left an impact on myself and most likely many others. For those who found this episode of Hey Arnold living rent-free in their head all of these years as well, will understand where I'm coming from. Except there'll always be those one or two people in the comments like, this is dark? No, I didn't get scared. I'm a big, tough person who wants people to know how big and tough I am. Yeah, okay, bud. Weenie Hut Jr.'s is that way.
I think you'd be more comfortable over at that place.
Weenie Hut Juniors.
Anyways, I love Hey Arnold. I love this episode for the impact it has left on me and why I still can't watch it before I go to sleep. Not that I'm, scared or anything. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this episode of Hey Arnold, as well as what other episodes from Hey Arnold that you find dark, strange, or weird. Thank you all for the incredible support on these videos. We just recently hit 50,000 subscribers on the channel, and I am beyond thankful for the overwhelming support from all of you. I just like to talk about and discuss my experiences with cartoons and shows that molded who I am today, and to see so many people resonate with that and share their own truly brings me so much joy. I will be back with another video this week. If you haven't done so, please hit the like button on this video and subscribe for more content like this. I'm genuinely very thankful for all the support, and until next time, later.